With bacteria and viruses all around us, we can't help but wonder at the marvel of our immunological system. But there have been times where diseases got a very big head start, causing a lot of damage. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Mega Top 10 video, the go-to place for mega entertainment. Today's countdown, Top 10 plagues and pandemics that have affected the human race. Let's get right on it. Number 10. The Asian Flu. 1957 to 1958 Common Era. Caused by the influenza A virus, type H2N2, the Asian flu was reported first in the city of Guizhou, China at the beginning of 1957 and spread rapidly to other regions by April and to the rest of the world in countries like the United States and United Kingdom by June. India had reportedly 1 million affected in a short period of time. All the medical and scientific personnel started to work on a vaccine from October 1957 and quickly created it, which helped in a great deal to contain the pandemic. With a death toll of 1.1 million deaths worldwide, it puts the Asian flu in our 10th spot. Number 9. 17th century Great Plagues. From the 1600s to the 1700s, Common Era. Caused by the Yersinia pestis, a Coccobacillus bacterium, which dates back to the year 541 to its first appearance, sprouted again in the year 1347 and one more time in the 1600s. This lethal microorganism propagated to different cities like London, Amsterdam, Venice, and Oslo, making it all the way to Russia at different intervals. Said to have originated near China through the Silk Road or by ships, it decimated the city's population with speed. With a death toll of more than 3 million and a death rate of 14%, this tiny bad boy ranks on our number 9 spot. Number 8. Antonine Plague. 165 to 180 Common Era. Also known as the Plague of Galen, named after a Greek physician who studied it, the Antonine Plague is thought to have been caused by either two viruses, the smallpox or the measles virus, but still undetermined what the real cause was. It affected, like most epidemics and pandemics, all different aspects of daily life, putting a halt on trading, upsetting economics, and warfare, and discriminated none, killing from slaves to emperors like Lucius Verus. With a death toll of 5 million and a terrifying 2,000 deaths per day in Rome, the Antonine Plague gets spot number 8. Number 7. The Third Plague, 1855 Common Era. As mentioned in our number 9 spot, the Yersinia bacterium is once more the protagonist of this pandemic. This type of bacteria creates 3 types of disease: pneumonic, septicemic, and bubonic. Starting in Yunnan, a Chinese province in the year 1855, was thought to have been carried by infected people, rats, and fleas through ships sailing to other countries to trade. With a staggering 12 million deaths and 90% of deaths in India alone, the Third Plague gets number 7. Number 6. Coccolisley epidemic, 1545 to 1548 Common Era. Coccolisley is the Aztec word for pest. Thought to have been caused by a subspecies of Salmonella, this bacterial outbreak in modern-day Mexico was attributed to major droughts in the Aztec Empire. Of course, without water to have proper food hygiene, the bacteria had an optimum environment to thrive. Taking the lives of around 15 million people in just a 3-year period makes the Coccolisley reach our number 6 spot. Number 5. HIV/AIDS, 1981 to the present day. The human immunodeficiency virus has not been around for long, but in its history has affected millions of lives. Its most probable cause was the transference from a chimpanzee virus to humans in West Africa. Being a hard virus to spot due to the latency of the symptoms and consequences damaging the body's immunological system, it opens the door to other types of diseases that without the proper defenses turn lethal. But scientists have yet to develop a successful cure. Killing over 30 million people worldwide, the HIV is our number 5. Number 4, Plague of Justinian, 541 to 542 Common Era. Once again in our countdown, we talk about Yersinia pestis bacterium. This small organism affected the Byzantine Empire under the rule of Emperor Justinian, and more so its capital, Constantinople. Said to have arrived with merchant ships, transporting goods and infected rats and fleas from Egypt, this plague is the first time that Yersinia pestis is reported in history. With an estimated death count of 30 to 50 million, a terrifying 5,000 deaths per day, and approximately killing 40% of the population in Constantinople, we rank it on number 4. Number 3, the Spanish flu, 1918 to 1919 Common Era. By this time, the world was immersed in war, the First World War. Millions died, and many others injured congested hospitals and overworked medical staff. Some seem to think that this was one of the causes of the deadliness of this disease. Achieved its name due to news censorship in countries like Germany, France, and USA to minimize the effects of the illness to keep morale from plummeting during conflict. But one country remained neutral to this strategy: Spain. This new strand of the influenza virus was vicious, attacking people of all ages and infecting about 500 million people worldwide. With a high death toll of 50 million people accounted for, the Spanish flu is in our top 3. Number 2, smallpox, around 1500s Common Era. Mentioned before in this countdown as one of the alleged causes of another epidemic, the smallpox virus is thought to have been documented as far back as 1500 BCE. But all this has been up for debate from different experts. With symptoms such as high fever, muscle pain, and skin rash that left nasty scars and could produce blindness, a 30% risk of death if contracted, and total death count of 56 million that could even go up to 100 million undocumented cases. The smallpox plague is, as of 1980, by the World Health Organization, declared eradicated. It is a deadly disease, and that's why it made it to our number 2 spot. Ready for our number 1 spot? But first, let's talk about one that did not make the countdown. Of course, we're talking about the coronavirus. Up until the making of this video, it has had a worldwide impact, probably without precedents. With a total of 2,293,644 documented infections and 157,400 people deceased, gives the COVID-19 a 6% death rate if infected to date. Clearly, these numbers are changing every day, and with everyone's help, we can lower those numbers. So please, stay home. Number 1, the Black Death, or bubonic plague, 1347 to 1351 Common Era. At last, we got to our number 1 spot, the Black Death, caused by, yes, you guessed it, Yersinia pestis. This tiny organism changed the course of European history. Starting allegedly on the Asian continent, it affected countries like China, India, and Persia in the 1300s, and landed to Europe through ships docking in different cities. This is how the disease spread so fast. But not only did it spread like fire, it was very effective, as you could go to sleep healthy and not wake up the next day. Everyone was afraid, mainly because they didn't understand how the illness was transmitting to other people. Now we know that the bacillus was transported by infected rats and fleas, but in the Middle Ages there was a lot of superstition involved. With an extremely high death count of 200 million and striking 30 to 60% of Europe's population, this deadly disease is the Grim Reaper itself. Diseases have been around since the beginning of history, but one important fact remains. An effective way to minimize the havoc of them is through hygiene. So, remember, don't forget to wash your hands constantly, apply all the hygiene recommendations, and in these pandemic times, stay home. What do you think of this list? Do you agree? Comment down below, and if you like this video and want to support our channel, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed this video.